Ryan, welcome to the show. Very excited to have you. You built an insurance company. You spent many, many years building it up, scaling it, and eventually selling it. Tell us about the identity crisis that you had after selling it.
Yeah. So the 10-cent tour for everyone is I've been in the insurance industry for 20 years. The first were as a boots on the ground producer. That means, I'm hawking home and autos across kitchen tables. I mean, I started before, the internet was even part of the insurance industry. I mean, the internet existed, but insurance tends to be a technology laggard. So, we're wet signing documents and driving to people's homes. And I put 55,000 miles on my car, trolling strip malls and trying to do commercial insurance and all that kind of good stuff, kind of standard, a blocking and tackling sales job in the very traditional sense. That career, as much as I enjoyed it, and it was my first sales position, and I done well, and really kind of saw that sales and growing businesses and really growth of businesses in general, not just the sales function, was very, very interesting to me, et cetera. That business became very small. It was a 13-person small business in upstate New York, and my ambitions were bigger than that. So I left that job and became the chief marketing officer for a company called trustedchoice.com. They were the number one lead generator in the insurance industry. I also built, and we can talk about this too, a partner media brand that was essentially kind of an old school content marketing play in order to build awareness and ultimately drive leads into our business. I took a couple other executive positions in the insurance industry, but my career that entire time had been the insurance industry. And what I had found because I kind of got to see all these different angles of the business. I got to see what it looks like to be a producer. I had talked to thousands at this point of insurance agency owners, so business owners, and got to see, and understand their angle. I saw the angle of insurance carriers, of technology providers, of consultants, and all the different kind of roles that I'd played. And through all that, I did two things for any entrepreneurs out there. I highly recommend. I was constantly journaling my thoughts around where I saw gaps. So, like, hey, wouldn't it be nice if, or it seems like someone should be able to solve this, or here's how the rest of the industry is doing it, but this just seems crazy to me. And most of those notes I made with no intention of ever starting my own insurance agency. It was just observations based on what I was doing. And it's something that I don't think today I do it as second nature. AI agents and I'm huge user of OpenClaw. My guy Maximum Effort is like becoming like my I hate to say this, but he's becoming like my best friend, certainly my best work friend. Um, and so now I do it. Now I have the ability to this kind of like constant like journaling slash note taking slash kind of just brain dumping is all the time. I'm either talking to texting into a channel on Telegram or just typing in these thoughts. And again, not with the intention that these are definitely going to become something. It's just observations that I see. Like, it could be as simple as I made one the other day. It could be a couple weeks ago. And I promise I'm getting to an answer to your question. But I made one the other day around this move from people telling stories via threads to long form posts on X, right? So for a while, if you wanted to tell a story on X, you told it through these long threads. And now it's like 25,000 character, long posts that people are doing. And just a simple comment in there of like, this is obviously something where people are moving. These longer single X posts are getting way more attention. And just if I want to share a story or I want to, this is just something to be aware of, right? So I'm constantly just making these little observations. Okay. Now, I obviously didn't have max effort back then, so I was just doing this in notebooks. And I took a CEO position. Unfortunately, I had a family member get terminally ill. I was a chief marketing officer of a large technology company out of Columbus, Ohio. That position required me to travel 3 weeks a month. And I had a family member get terminally ill. And unfortunately for him, there wasn't like light at the end of the tunnel. He was on a clock. And I couldn't travel because of that. So I took a local position. I became the CEO of a 6-location fitness franchise. My only position I'd had in 18 years outside the insurance industry, but Albany, New York is also not a bastion of insurance innovation. So there wasn't really a lot of opportunity for me either. But it was a good position and I love working out and it was great. And I grew that business 1,000 members in 9 months. They were stuck at around 2,000. And I was able, with the help of the rest of the team, I put a plan in place that we were able to rapidly scale that business. And we actually put 2 locations on, and that was great. Unfortunately, and this gets to the identity crisis thing. Unfortunately, I had made the business, this is a life lesson. I had made the business so profitable for the founder without adding any significant additional expense that he stopped wanting to grow the business and just wanted to reap the profits. And I was his biggest expense. So he just fired me on the spot. Like literally just showed
Wow.
up one day and was like, "Hey man, you did a great job. Appreciate it. But I'm making so much." This is verbatim. Like, "I'm making so much money that I don't really need to grow the business anymore. And if I don't need to grow the business, I don't need you. So have a nice day." That's that cold. Like it was that cold. Like it's 8:30 in the morning on a Monday and I'm like getting ready for my week. And that's the first thing I heard. So when that happened, I obviously was a little shocked, a little devastated, but my identity wasn't attached to that business. It was a job and I liked the job. Don't get me wrong. And I did everything I could to be successful at it. And I think that I was, but my identity wasn't the CEO of, insert fitness brand. This was someone else's business that I just kind of came in as a mercenary and enjoyed working on. Okay. Well, after that happened, I went home and I started pulling out my notebooks because I said, I've been a salesman, I've been, an employee, I've been an executive now for the last 7 years. Like, where do I want to go next? And I really wanted to try my chops at being an entrepreneur. So I started, I took those notes that I had made and I outlined this independent insurance agency that filled certain gaps and did things in a certain way that other people didn't do that I thought was very achievable, and would create real efficiency and effectiveness, that I just over the course of my previous 18 years of my career, I just didn't see people doing these things, or certainly not doing them effectively or consistently. So I executed that mission. We grew so fast. So I launched 7 days before COVID, which is not a great time to start a business. But because I had taken all those notes and journaled out this idea for so long and was so secure in like, I know this will work because, right? I had heard it from this guy, but this guy wasn't really, I had all these pieces in place. This wasn't just like a fly by night idea or something I threw into ChatGPT, which didn't even exist at the time. This is essentially almost 2 decades of notes. We grow so fast that in 2021, we're the fastest growing small commercial agency in the country outside of the top 200. And the top 200 most of them are public companies. So we're talking like non-top 200 agencies. We're the fastest growing in the country. And we grow so fast, we end up getting acquired in 2022, which is great. Well, what no one, people talk about this, but it's kind of like sex. Like you can't understand it until you experience it. Like selling to a PE company, you got to be really, really careful. And I hadn't done it before and I didn't understand. And I got this big offer. You know, it sounded great. It looked great. It looked great post acquisition. I had an attorney. It's not like we didn't look through the documents, whatever. So I sell the business and I think I'm king of the world, right? It's like I built this thing. I got a really nice payday with tons of upside on the back end. Like I'm still in this business that I love. Now I'm kind of capitalized. I got a little bit of a safety net, so I don't have to wake up sweating like an entrepreneur
Wow.
every day. You know what I mean? Like I kind of feel like I got the best of both worlds here. And 6 months in, for the first 6 months, it's great. 6 months in, the PE company starts getting involved in the business. And they start ripping out everything that made us unique and successful. In their words, they were professionalizing the business, which means like I was on a fairly basic, in the insurance industry, they're called agency management systems. Just think of it as a core system, core data system. I was on a fairly basic one because my belief was I didn't want to capture all of this data. We're essentially in the insurance industry, think of it as a manufacturing chain. Your carriers are your true manufacturers. You have a middleware, they call them wholesalers, MGAs, et cetera. Those would be like your suppliers. And then you have your independent insurance agencies and insurance agents who are your retailers. Those are your storefronts, essentially. Okay. I was always under the belief, and part of how we were able to work cheaply and fast was instead of making the point of truth our core system, I used the carrier systems as our core point of truth, which meant they had to hold all the burden of these huge databases and all this information. All I had to do was have a record of which client was with which carrier, and we were able to quickly route and use their core system. So that was a big place that we created a lot of efficiency and a lot of effectiveness. No one else did it that way. It was one of the reasons we were able to scale so fast because I wasn't spending money on all this nonsense that most agencies did. I was able to put that back into people, into marketing, into partnerships, et cetera. So they start ripping out all this stuff. And I'm just watching my baby get like murdered one knife cut at a time. And, I finally like kind of approached them and said, look, like you're mad at me because I'm not as effective as when you purchased me. I'm mad at you because I'm not as effective as when you purchased me because you have literally changed every single system that we used in order to be effective. Like, I'm not really sure this is working. This is August of 2023. And they agreed. They said, look, like we're willing to roll back some of the changes. We kind of, we get that you're something a little different, all good. Okay, so now I'm kind of like, all right, this is just a recalibration. Well, on November 10th of 2023, I show up at a meeting that is supposed to be one of these recalibration meetings, right? We're just kind of making decisions on which pieces of tech are necessary for, their other portfolio company kind of roll up stuff, whatever. And instead they go, we're shutting down the business. We're firing every one of your 24 employees except for two. Um, and as of tomorrow, your agency, your business, Rogue Risk, no longer exists. And dude, it was like, it's cliche, but it's like a bomb went off, the world went blank, everything was foggy, like, that just you've seen it in movies, you've heard a million people talk about it on stage when they're telling their horror stories. It was all of those things. It was like it was disbelief, it was immediate like anger, frustration, confusion. You're like, "What are you talking about?" Like, we did 500,000 in sales, and for a business our size, that's a big number. We did 500,000 in sales the month they shut us down. So like I'm looking at the numbers going, I didn't understand. But to your question, and this is a very long-winded way of getting there, but I felt like the context was necessary.
Perfect.
For more than 20 years, I knew who I was, right? I was an executive or I was a producer or I was a business owner in the insurance industry on the retail side of property casualty insurance, and I was really good at it. And then all of a sudden it was just gone. And I did not know for the first time in my career what I wanted to do next. Like I didn't have a set of notes post Rogue Risk. Like Rogue Risk in my mind, like this was what I was going to do. Even though I had sold it to the P company, like this is what I was going to do for the next 10, 20 years. Like
Yeah.
I love this business. Felt like I was just getting started and have all this runway. And then dude, just like, as fast as a finger snap, it's all gone. And like, there's nothing you can do. There's no talking my way out of this. There's no getting funding and try to buy it back. It's done, decision made, case closed. You no longer work here. Have a nice day. Hit the bricks. And that just created, and dude, I went down a dark hole. And I've written about this a little bit, and the part that was the most surprising to me in retrospect is that up until that point, I would have told you, because I've done a tremendous amount of mindset work, emotional work. I have a very strong and consistent connection with God in the way that and with him. I have good connections to like I would have thought like emotionally, mentally, mindset wise, like I'm solid. You know what I mean? I mean, we all got our cracks, but like I'm pretty solid. And dude, it was like someone just kicked the chair right out from under me and I was falling and I it was like I lost all the skills, all the tools that I had to like emotionally calibrate and be a good worker. And I just was looking around like, how did this happen? What am I supposed to do? I feel like a failure, even though I don't know how I failed. I feel like shameful. I feel doubt. Like, like all these things creep into your mind. And at 43 years old, after a fairly successful career, to feel like you're starting back at zero again. I mean, I wasn't starting at zero like monetarily, obviously, but like career wise, it's a very interesting experience that I hope most of the people listening to this never have to go through.
Wow, Ryan, that is amazing. That's a extremely deep answer. So, I think you're alluding to your article that you wrote titled "You're White Knuckling Your Way Through Life for a Feeling That Doesn't Exist." I love the title.
Yes.
So, you mentioned in there that you spent many months trying to go through this recovery phase. You were buying things, nothing was satisfying you. So, my question to you with this idea in mind, a lot of people will say, okay, money buys happiness, money does this, right? And we don't even have to go from the money perspective, but for the people that have these beliefs that if once you get X, Y will happen, do you think this is an experience they have to go through themselves, or this is something they can learn on their own?
I think that you can prepare yourself for it, but you have no idea how you're gonna react until you live through it. I
Yeah.
would My wish is that people experience it earlier in their career rather than later. Because if I had gone through something similar to this in my late 20s, early 30s, I think it would have had less of an impact on me because at 43, you're starting to say, like, I don't have a whole lot of shots left. You know what I mean? Like, not, career's not over. Not saying that I'm old, not even pretending like that, right? I don't feel old. And frankly, health is a competitive advantage in business, so I take incredibly good care of myself. So in that regard, I feel good, but like, but you can't help but go, I don't have a whole lot of shots left, right? Like I can't like this can't happen again or can't keep happening where I do another 5 years and then I'm back at 0 again. Like so now you're starting to question where normally I would have just jumped back into the game and started messing around and I'm a big proponent of FAFO, right? Like, figure out what's going on, action begets answers, like, you just start doing things and the answer will present itself. I was like, "Man, I don't can I do that at this age?" Now, granted, I think that's a false narrative, right? I'm just telling you what was going on in my head at the time. I don't think that's a real narrative. I think you can work and achieve, and your career can transition as many times as you need or want it to. Obviously, compound interest is a real thing, and the more time you can spend in one space doing productive work is better, but it's not like the game is over at 43. Like, that's crazy. But this is what was going on in my head, right? And all these little lies. And, I think that I th- the best you kind of have to live it, but you can prepare for it. So this is where I want to take people. This is why having mentors, having a rock solid foundation of 3 to 5 peers, friends that you can talk to on a very honest basis makes sense. This is why having a partner in your life, regardless of what your sexual orientation is, having a partner in your life who's solid, who you can talk to, who's going to be there for you, right? Um, you know, Setting up these foundational items is so incredibly important. One of the things that I find with some of the younger people that reach out to me, especially early 30s, late 20s, early 30s, is like you look like you're in that general range, maybe even a little younger. I don't know. But like you guys aren't getting married, and I can understand the thought process. I think the thought process is completely wrong. And I think it's a travesty that you're not. And I don't mean like rush into marriage, but I mean working towards it. You know what I mean? And when you find the person committing to someone, because when you have your worst day, you're not going to be like there's nothing that prepares you mentally, emotionally. Like you can't do enough meditation. You can't have a good enough morning routine. When you get absolutely punched in the face and knocked to the ground, it's gonna be your family, your friends, your partner that picks you back up. That's how you get back up off the ground. If you try to do it by yourself, it's gonna be hard, much harder than it should be. Very likely, you regress into bad habits to cope with feelings that you're having that are not gonna be productive. So drugs, alcohol, sex, porn, death scrolling, just choose your detaching from the world, overeating, etc. So having that being mentally prepared and understanding what's coming through reading, through listening to podcasts like this one, through going and being part of different groups, going to conferences and meeting people, and then having a strong foundation of humans that can help pick you back up off the ground, that prepares you for this. But you won't understand it until you live it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's a very realistic answer as well. Like a lot of people want to hear, like, yeah, you can prepare for it, but I don't think people can. So I think that's a really good answer. So, a lot of my listeners are younger and ambitious people, so it's kinda interesting that you're talking about the fact that you wish you knew something early on. So, for the people that are maybe trying to build something very meaningful to them, how can they learn not to attach their identity to it?
I I I think you should attach your identity. I think that whole narrative is
Yeah, yeah,
complete
yeah.
crap. This whole narrative around like, this emotion guys, you're and I don't mean to knock on your generation, but as a gen I'm like right at the end of Gen X. So I've lived part of that like millennial life and I've lived part of the Gen X life. And I think there are a lot of things like I think Gen Z and the millennials get banged on far too much. So I'm not hating in any regard, but there are absolutely things that you guys get completely wrong. And the same goes for the older generation. I can say some of that because I sit in the middle of it, right? If I were like middle Gen X, older end of Gen X, I wouldn't be able to understand you guys as well. So I do look at you guys at your generation as different, and I think there's some things that you get incredibly well. I think you guys are so willing to try things, so willing to jump in, so quick to action, so like willing to digest and consume. And I think all those things are amazing for growing a business and for getting out ahead of things. However, I think at the same time, like, I think you put way too much weight on all these fluffy emotional mindset things. Like, you got to go get shit done. Like, that's at the end of the day, like, you're not going to be balanced. You're not always going to be in a good mood. You're not always going to have the right mindset. You're going to get angry. You're going to yell at people. You're going to get sad. You're going to have self doubt. You're going to curse the world. You're going to scream off the top of the thing, and pound your chest when you have a great day. Like this, if you're going to take on entrepreneurship, it is an emotional roller coaster, like very few other things you will ever experience in your life. And like trying to prevent that, the ups and downs, is not going to help you. It's not going to help you. Like, that's why I say get a good, solid foundation of people. If it's your
Yeah.
family, amazing. If you don't have a supportive family, go find a supportive peer group. If you can't find a supportive peer group, go find a supportive partner. Your partner is ultimately the most important decision that you're going to make in your entire life, by the way. That doesn't mean you shouldn't commit, but it is very important. Understand that you're missing an opportunity to have a very supportive person in your life for when the shitty things happen. And my point in saying that is if you can set yourself up with just a few individuals, 3 to 5, a couple friends, a family member, a partner, etc., some combination of those, and they create this little support group for you when you have your bad days, right? Once you get that in place, just go out and do shit and understand that it's going to be terrible. It's going to be absolutely terrible and amazing at the same time. And to try to dull either end of that emotional spectrum is limiting your upside. I do not believe in this. Let's find balance, be emotionally. Those people aren't the ones that win. Those are the ones that write books about being emotionally balanced. Those aren't the people that
Interesting.
win. Those are the people commentating from the sidelines. Look at the people in the arena. You got to be a little broken to operate in the arena. Like Elon Musk, Steve Jobs. Like, dude, even everyone calls out Jensen Wang for how put together he is. Listen to the shit that he says. The dude is a little crazy in the most successful way. I don't mean that in negative to him at all, right? But like the way he thinks about things, that talk he had about Stanford, about you just have to suffer. Stop trying not to suffer. Like, it's part of it. You're not doing it right if you're not feeling pain. Like, if you're not feeling pain, you are not doing this right. And I don't mean to seek it out. I just mean it happens. And every day shouldn't be painful. Doesn't mean every day should be terrible. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that I think we try to find these hacks on our mental. It doesn't matter. You're going to
Yeah.
experience it either way. So go in with eyes wide open and proper expectations. Like, you are wading into a fucking battlefield and everybody wants to either destroy you or they want to buy you super cheap and take everything that you have. That's what everybody wants to do. Like, no one gives a shit about you. They don't care if you're successful. They'll only care when you're so successful that you're undeniable. That no one's going to give a shit. You're going to launch and everyone's going to clap. They're going to be like, way to go. Amazing. Go get it. And then they're going to hate on you until the moment you become undeniable.
Mhm.
So don't have expectations. It's going to be any other way. Have zero expectations. It's going to be any other way, right? Your mom's not going to understand what you're doing. Your best friend, unless he's in the same business as you or is as ambitious, is not going to understand, right? Find the people that will, create a little bedrock support group for you for your bad days, and then just go out and be an adult and go run shit. And understand that you're going to get the shit beat out of you. If you don't come out with a limp and a few scars, you did it wrong.
I love that so much. That's amazing. I think that's something that I struggle with as well, where I'm kind of like, I want to, I guess, optimize for things, or like prepare for it as best as possible. But the whole principle of being able to understand it's going to happen and not be able to avoid it is awesome. As far as the idea of like attaching your identity to you, I think some people might have a positive identity to themselves. Like, for example, for me, I've been doing this podcast for like 2.5 years. It's cool. It's definitely a part of who I am. And also, I want to give big ups to you because I think that's something that's not as talked about, where people will say, don't attach something to yourself. But I feel like for me, like I say, okay, I'm a podcaster, and it kind of makes me want to work harder and like do the right things.
Yeah.
So I think there are people on the other end of the spectrum as well, where their identity is somebody that is like not serving them in a correct way, to where
Mhm.
their identity, instead of making you want to shoot higher, it kind of keeps you the same or puts you lower. What would you say to those people? Like, how can they actually take their identity from being, I guess, not self-serving to something that can boost their potential up?
So the first decision you have to make is whether or not you want to be successful. If you want to be successful, then you got to get rid of that victimhood bullshit right away. Okay. I get that it gets you likes and maybe it gets you some pats on the back at the conference and, whatever. It's not going to make you successful. So
Yeah.
that's a choice. Like, you're not specifically asking me about victimhood, but I'll tell you right
Okay.
now that if you want to play that the universe is out to get you, or this person's out to get you, or because it's you're black or gay or straight, or you walk on your hands, or you were born in this country, or, the moon was in the sign of Aquarius when you came out of your mother, right? Okay, let's say all those things are true. Still doesn't matter. You still got to go do the thing. Okay. And if you ever come across someone who is trying to get ahead by leveraging those things, run away from them. No one will sink your ship faster than someone who leverages victimhood. Guys,
Mm.
gals, if you're listening to this, this might be the only smart thing that I say. If someone in your world leverages victimhood to get ahead, run. They will take you down. They will absolutely take you down. They tell lifeguards that when someone is flailing in the water, to not approach them until they settle down, right? And the reason for that is that person will sink both of them if they're not calm. You cannot associate with someone who leverages victimhood. You can't. It will bring you down. I don't care how strong you are. So stay away from them. No one has to worry about you anyways, because you'll never be successful. So first, choose whether you want success or not. If you want success, you got to get rid of victimhood. Okay. So now let's talk about identity. Let's assume that your parents treated you like crap or ignored you, or you've had a couple bad experiences and you have some self-doubt, or I won't say victimhood, but you're not confident, or you've had a couple misses, so maybe you feel like a loser, whatever negative self-image you have attached to yourself. Guys, I feel you. Everybody does. You're not alone. So first I want to tell you, you're not alone. I have had a tremendous number of successes in my life. I'm very blessed. I'm a very blessed human being. I'm a 6'3" white guy born in upstate New York in America. Like, I hit the jackpot from day one to begin with. And then I've had a lot of amazing things. I have two loving parents. I have great friends. I have great kids. Even my ex-spouse, like, we're not married anymore because we weren't really meant to be married, but we're still friends and get along great. So, like, I'm a very blessed human being. Okay. I wake up every day with a voice in my head telling me, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm never going to reach the same pinnacles that I've reached in the past, that I'm getting too old to play the game, that my mind, all these things. Everybody has it. So again, don't think that your negative self-image, that guy who walks around the room who's confident, don't think that he's got something you don't. Everybody has this stuff, right? Here's the hack. Act as if. I'm going to give you a slightly off-context story, but hopefully it will explain to everybody. So I'm a big fan of Jordan Peterson. In 2017, Jordan Peterson's book, 12 Rules for Life, changed the course of my life. I was making a lot of bad decisions at that time, mostly just not taking care of myself mentally or physically. I was working and I was successful in work, but basically everything else other than work was a mess. And I read 12 Rules for Life and it recalibrated my life. And Jordan Peterson at that time used to get asked a lot about his relationship with God because he wrote about God a lot, but he would never really say if he believed. And I actually went to one of his talks and he was on stage, and he'd done this on other stages, but he did it on this one as well. He was asked that question, do you believe in God? And at that time, his answer was what I think is the best answer to the question you just asked me. So he said, look, what I believe is the Bible, again, his opinion, you don't have to agree with this. What he said is, I believe the Bible is the greatest self-improvement book that's ever been written. You don't have to believe in God. If you just follow the lessons, it's the best self-improvement book that's ever been written. So what I don't know if I believe in God yet, but what I choose is to act as if he does. And then here's the crux. 5 years later, I went to Jordan Peterson again. He actually came to Schenectady, New York, which is this tiny, I couldn't believe he came here. It's this tiny little stop. Like of all the places he was at, like New York, Chicago, Schenectady, it was crazy. So I had to go, right? It's like 20 minutes from my house. And he gets asked the same question again. And he goes, yes, I do. And he goes, let me explain that. He said, I used to say I act as if he exists. He said, by acting as if he did, I started to believe that he did, and now I believe it 100%. So when I talk to entrepreneurs or young individuals who are trying to achieve something, you're not that thing today. Like if you're under the age of 25, your brain's not even developed yet, guys. Like your brain's not even fully developed, especially if you're a male. Women, some of you probably have well-developed brains. If you're a dude under the age of 25, your brain just isn't even completely built yet. So, you're not all the way there, and that's okay. That's perfectly okay. Pick the thing you want to be and just act as if that thing. What would that person do? You want to be fit? What does a fit person do? Well, they don't eat chips and they go for runs and they lift heavy weights. Okay, I'll do those things. I'm not a fit person. I'm not, you don't have to be a fit person today to act as a fit person. What does a successful entrepreneur do? They network like friggin' crazy. They time block and they secure and manage their time as if it's worth its weight in gold, right? They are constantly learning new skills. They're constantly trying to find problems and gaps in the market where a product they can build can fit and can make money, right? That's what entrepreneurs are constantly thinking about. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, guess what doesn't fit in there? Going out, getting drunk with your homies, spending all your time, gambling on DraftKings, like those things are not what an entrepreneur does. It doesn't mean those things are bad. It just means if you want to be a regular guy with a $70,000 a year office job stamping TPS reports who knows every statistic for every Major League Baseball player, well, that's not entrepreneur guy. That's a different guy, right? You're acting like I have a corporate office job guy. And I'm not judging that. I'm just saying act as the person you want to be. That way it doesn't matter if you feel shame, doubt, you lack confidence, you're insecure, you're not good at public speaking. Because if you're not good at public speaking, but this 5-minute pitch contest you have could mean the difference between you and $100,000 in startup capital, guess what you need to do? Go be a good fucking public speaker. Go figure it out. Go act as a good public speaker. Doesn't mean you're going to be Tony Robbins, but you're going to be better than the version of yourself who doesn't believe you're that thing. So if you want to be it, don't even pretend like you're that thing. Act as if you are, right? Just what does this person do? I don't want to read this book. Yeah, but this book has some knowledge that's going to help me be better at what I want to do. So read the book. I don't like listening to podcasts. Yeah, but listening to the All In podcast every day gives you an MBA level overview of the topics that are hitting in the economy and the culture every single week. So listen to the podcast, right? Or whatever other things you need to do.
This is gold. This is absolute gold. I mentioned it before, but you have an amazing way to just no BS your way through something. You're making me think about so many things. The first thing is, I love this idea because actually one of my friends sent me a similar video of Jordan Peterson. He said the same thing. He's like, if you want to be somebody, you have to act as if you want to be, he said, same exact examples in the gym, like you should be exercising, you should be doing these things. And it's interesting because it gives a really good model of thinking because you know what you need to do to kind of be around that area. You might not know what you have to do as a CEO, but if you want to be an entrepreneur, start a business, you have to spend time on it, you have to do these inputs. So that's amazing. Going back to the victimhood, like you were talking about, do you think that having victimhood, but using it to your advantage can give you leverage?
Yes, that's why people do it, but it's toxic leverage. So that's why
Interesting.
I say run. In the short burst, why people use it is because in the short term, it gets them what they want, right? In the short term makes you feel good. However, it solves zero problems. So in the short term, I get it's all your fault. It's your fault that I'm not where I am. If your podcast didn't exist and my podcast would be bigger, you're stealing because you're this and you have more time because you're younger and well, you're better capitalized and your dad
Yeah,
was a whatever and he gave you this money and your mom knows this person. So that connection got you where you were. And if only I had those things, how I would be more successful. And in the short
right.
term, I get to feel good for a second. I get to go, well, yeah, I would be more successful if he wasn't screwing me over in all the ways that he is and he didn't have all the advantages that I have. Yeah, it makes me feel better in the short term. And you even may feel so bad that you throw me a bone. And now I get even a little more juice. And I go, ooh, when I pressure people and I make them feel like insert whatever ist is your favorite thing for victimhood, right? You give me something because you feel bad. Now it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now I'm like, ooh, if I say that he's, anti-Buffalo Bills fans and he feels bad about it, so he gives me, he tells his followers to come be my followers because he feels bad and I'm a victim because, he's a Patriots fan and they're really good. And I'm a Bills fan and we somehow figure out how to suck every year. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I know it's a trite example, guys, but my point is like there is some value that comes out of leverage. That's why people use it. However, it's very toxic and it's very short term. So what I teach when I'm working with entrepreneurs explicitly is I call it the reality OS. We have to create an operating system for you based in reality. So that's what I build over time with my clients is we sit down and I kind of have a loose framework and know where we want to go because I've done it a bunch of times, but everybody's reality operating system is their own. You have to figure out what are the activities that you're going to do in the world and what are the results that you need to track in order to get to where you want to be. And then all your theories, feelings, emotions, beliefs, none of it means shit. What you need to do is go out and test everything and let reality show you where to go, right? So how does that look like in a real business scenario? Let's say in my industry, so my core industry, I said before, is insurance, right? And for the longest time, people would tell you that Google ads for insurance, particularly commercial insurance, don't work. They don't work. The cost of acquisition is too high. It's too competitive. There's too many large companies that don't care about conversion rate and just bang up the cost per click. And it's just not a profitable way to go. Okay. That is the standing idea in the industry. Okay. Well, maybe you have a really good way of hooking them. Maybe you have a way of standing out. Maybe you have a product offering that's different. Maybe the type of customer that you're going after relates more to Google Ads or converts higher on Google Ads than the industry standard. What I'm saying is you could believe that thing that's always been done is true, or you could go out and test everything and let reality dictate to you what you should actually be doing. Like for me, I found that YouTube and just creating YouTube videos, simple, stupid explainer videos on YouTube. Literally, I would batch record 10 in a day. They were all exactly the same. It would insert, today we're going to talk about what is general liability. And then I had a little bumper, and then I'd say, hi, my name is Ryan Hanley. I'm the founder and president of Rogue Risk, where we do insurance differently, specifically by giving you knowledge and information to make the right insurance decision. Then I'd tell them what general liability is. And at the end, I'd go, and if this is the kind of relationship that you would like with your insurance professional, we'd love to work with you. There's a bunch of ways you can reach out. There's a phone number. We have an email address, and I'm sure there's a button or a link somewhere around here that will allow you to contact us. Whichever way you choose, we look forward to working with you. And I did that over and over and over and over and over again. I did 497 videos, and we generated on average 32 inbound leads a day. The only
Wow.
cost was my time in creating the initial video. We never ran a paid ad. We never promoted a video. No one in the insurance industry has ever done it again or had ever done it before. I've done it now twice, once for my agency back when I was just a producer and once for the agency that I owned. So my point is, up until that point, every in the insurance industry would tell you that no one goes on YouTube to research insurance. Insurance is
Right.
boring. No one will ever go there. And I literally built a model that allowed me to scale to 27 people and sell for, 8 figures in 2 years because I let reality dictate. I didn't set out to be a YouTube insurance explainer video guy. I did, dude, at one point I had 7 different lead sources going, 17 different lead sources going. And then I
Wow.
just said, this one doesn't work. This one doesn't work. This one's got a chance. We should reevaluate. This one's working. Let's put it up here. This one's working. This one doesn't work. This one doesn't work. And we just let reality dictate to us. And what we found is that based on my ability to create these videos, and they are not Scorsese, just so anyone knows. I mean, this is just me standing in front of a camera. I mean, better than most small business videos that you would see, but not in any way like super well produced. And we were able to generate this enormous business. And like, I wouldn't have known that if I didn't just go out and figure out what was true and what wasn't. So my point is, guys, like, don't allow what's always been done. Don't allow I hate best practice. I love best practice and I hate them. I think if you've never been in a space before, understanding the best practices is kind of the bar. You have to. But once you know what those best practices are, I would try to move away from them and find out what your reality is as quickly as possible. And the reason I say that is if you work off best practices, I now know how to beat you. If you,
Mm.
because think about it, every industry, I don't care what industry you're in, everybody will be like, we're a best practices, insert what they do. We work off of best practices. It's like, okay, great. I now know exactly how to beat you. I know you probably are predominantly cold calling. You do no email marketing. Your service is probably crappy. You don't do more than 2 follow-ups on any new leads that come in because, Bob, I know exactly what the best practices are. So figure out what they are. That gets you off the ground. And then go figure out what your reality is and how you beat those best practices. And there is no industry or business that exists that strategy doesn't work. The problem is it's not formulaic. It is unique to everybody, which is why no one actually practices it.
Yeah, I know there's a good quote that's like, in order to break the rules, you must understand them first to
That's
understand
100%
how
the
things are
case.
played. But one thing you said that was super interesting that kind of made me think is you're kind of talking about like victimhood and how people have a hard time believing that their own reality might be in their control. And something that I've noticed is I've had friends that have been very close to me that might have had a lack of a certain experience. So we'll say 2 of my friends didn't go the traditional college path, right? I'm 21, so they didn't go the traditional college path and they felt very insecure about the fact that like, people are getting ahead of them. So they worked really hard. And now that I look back on it after a couple of years, one of my friends is so good at statistics because he taught himself and he is so much further better than somebody who's taking it at a college, and the other one's really good at AI and all that stuff. So it's interesting how having this insecurity, but also thinking that your life is in your control makes you work a little bit harder. It's an interesting kind of
I think so. I have 2 kids, 12 and 10, 2 boys. So we're not at college, but obviously, with at least my oldest at 12, he's 3 or 4 years away from thinking about college, right? So it's at least entered my brain. And I think we need to think about college as a tool. And what I mean by that is for some, it's a wonderful experience and something you should absolutely do. But the days of the next step, if you want to be successful, is college. Those are over, in my opinion. Absolutely over. 100%. I think you have to be very careful because college is really expensive. I went to the University of Rochester. At the time, it was the 29th ranked school in the country, and it was $29,000 a year. Thankfully, I got a sports scholarship because I grew up poor as shit, and otherwise I wouldn't have gone to school. But like, it was $29,000 a year to go there if I had paid full rack. Today, it's north of $50,000 a year to go to the University of Rochester to get a liberal arts degree, which, guys, is useless. I was a math major. Like, I haven't done math beyond multiple, add, subtract, multiply, divide since the day I graduated college. And like, so, okay. So now think of it, if I had $200,000 in debt coming out of school because I paid $50,000 a year, I'm behind the 8 ball, right? Immediately. And that debt is real. And, unfortunately, because our politicians and, political class hate us on both sides of the aisle, they will not allow college debt to be removed via bankruptcy, which creates the entire environment that we're experiencing, right? I mean, college is mostly financed through the federal government. Federal government will then not allow you to discharge that debt through bankruptcy. Therefore, colleges can just keep charging more. So because of that, you have to be very thoughtful in whether or not you go. Like, what are you trying to get out of it? Now, if you're an athlete and you want to keep playing sports and they're paying for your college, Awesome. If you're, you want to be a doctor, got to go to college. Want to be a lawyer today? Probably still have to go to college, right? Want to be an engineer? Probably still go to out of college. You want to be an entrepreneur? There's very few things in college beyond a good time that are going to help you with that endeavor at all. Now, does that mean, should you look at, like a community college or a state school? I think we all just have to think about our budgets and our futures. But the days of I went to college, I'm going to be fine are over. Those days are over. So think of it like every other decision that you make in your life. If you are okay going and getting a job or can support yourself in some way, and because you're not in school, you're able to read every freaking repo in GitHub on, how to build an open claw that makes $100,000 a month in, Instagram, small business Instagram ad sales. God bless you. That's an amazing skill that your friends do not have because they're stuck taking 101 physics or chemistry and at whatever liberal arts cars they have because you got to get the full spectrum of Renaissance program nonsense.
Yeah.
So like what I mean? Like, what is it that you want to do? There are some parts of our world that you still especially large corporate that still look at a college degree as like a key to unlock entry. I think that's going away. I think more and more the businesses that ambitious, driven, hardworking people, the kind of people that listen to your show probably want, those jobs more and more, those companies are not requiring. They're just looking for the best people. So if you want to become a badass computer engineer and, figure out how to take this idea of vibe coding and classic programming and combine it into some mind-shattering thing, right? Is 4 years of college the best way to get there? Or do you go out and teach yourself how to code or join a local coding class and go get an internship as early as you possibly can at NVIDIA or Tesla or one of these other places? I'm not saying you can get those internships, but it's probably those are going to be way more valuable to you. You know what I mean? Or even if it's with a local company to start, that hands-on experience in there with your fingers in the code, working through it, understanding it, figuring out how to prompt, how to build skills, and all these different things. Like that feels more valuable to me, and I wouldn't be insecure that I didn't go to college, because at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is did you build the life that you want? How you get there, the amount of pain you have to feel, the starts, the stops, the pain, the joy. It only matters if you get to where you want to be. That's the only thing that matters. Everything in between is bullshit. People are going to poke at you. They're going to yell at you. They're going to question you. They're going to doubt you. They're going to tell you, no matter what you do. If you go to college, you're who bought into the system. If you don't go to college, you're crazy. You're never going to get a job. No one's ever going to want you. So you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. So just pick the friggin' thing that you want to do. Like, this is what I wish someone told me. I went to school because I wanted to keep playing baseball mostly. I didn't particularly have an interest in school like that. I wanted to keep playing ball and seemed like a fun place to keep doing that. But I wish someone had grabbed me and go like, yeah, this is all nonsense. Like, you love growing businesses. You love performing on stage. You love helping people. Like, this is, go, I should have joined like a consulting group or, started speaking at that age, not getting a math degree. It's freaking ridiculous. I don't know.
Where can people find you?
Best place to find me is ryanhanley.com. I do a lot of speaking. I got a podcast as well. We talk about all kinds of different things, but mostly business leadership, self-improvement type stuff. And then, if there's anybody that ever needs help, Instagram, LinkedIn, just reach out. Happy to help if I can. If I can get you a one-liner or a resource, I'll do that. If you need more, we can talk about what that looks like.
And to all my listeners, thank you, and I'll see you guys next Tuesday.